Let's make wafer paper roses. We are going to make wild roses. They only have 11 petals, so it's an easy flower if you are a beginner and this is your first time working with wafer paper. Let's get started. To make our petals, I'm going to use my template from my book. It's linked below, and I'm going to use a piece of wafer paper. This is 0.30 millimeters wafer paper, but any single thickness wafer paper will work for this application. I'm going to use a pen so you can see what I'm doing, but I'm placing my wafer paper on top of my template and I'm tracing my template on the shiny side of my wafer paper. You can use a pencil or a Dresden tool to transfer your template. Then you can fold your wafer paper in 3 layers and cut 3 layers together to save you a little bit of time, like this. For this flower, we will need 5 of the small petals and 6 of the large petals, like that. Now, to shape my petals, I'm going to use my wafer paper conditioner. It's included in the description below. And I wanted to add a touch of pink color to make my wild roses more realistic. For my color, I like to use maroon, just a touch. And I always check my color if I like the saturation. Maybe a little bit lighter. Something like this. I will start with a small petal and I want my texture to be visible, so I'm going to apply my wafer paper conditioner on the bumpy side of my wafer paper. And my goal is to apply my color as evenly as possible. Now, to shape my petal, I'm going to take a pair of scissors and cut a little indentation about halfway through my petal, like this. Fold it over to give my petal more dimension. Now, to shape it, I'll bring it onto my foam pot and apply a touch of cornstarch to prevent my wafer paper from sticking to my ball tool. Now, for the ball tool, I'm taking a medium-sized ball tool and I'm going to run it at the base of my petal, like this, creating a very delicate rounded shape. And for the top end of my petals, I'm going to take a toothpick, place my petal on top of a toothpick, and roll it over like this on both sides, like that, giving this petal a very beautiful look, which is signature for wild rose petal. And I will do the same application for my larger petal. My wafer paper conditioner onto the bumpy side of my wafer paper, like this, making sure that my wafer paper is absorbing the conditioner. Then I will cut a little indentation on the bottom of my petal, fold it over itself, like this, place it on my foam pot with a touch of cornstarch and use my ball tool to shape my petal, make it more rounded here. And for the top, I will do the same application with a toothpick. So I'm placing my petal on top of a toothpick and twisting it over. So now I have large rose petal as well. To make the center for our roses, I'm going to use a piece of wafer paper. This is from our template and a piece of 20 gauge wire. To start my center, I will prepare my wire and make a very small thin hook on the top like this. And I will start by cutting my stamens. The easiest way to cut your stamens is to hold your wafer paper and your scissors same distance from the end and cut your fringe that is going to become our stamens for our flower. And try to cut your wafer paper as thinly as possible because that is going to give you more realistic look for your stamens. Now, because I'm in a dry climate and my humidity is very low, I'm going to take just a touch of my wafer paper conditioner. I barely have any moisture on my brush. I just wanted to make my stamens a little bit softer and more flexible so they're not going to break when we are going to assemble our flower. You can steam your stamens, you can just apply a touch of wafer paper conditioner with a barely dry brush. So I will take my small ball tool and my stamens and I'm going to run my ball tool on my stamens just to create more dimension and movement when we are going to assemble our stamens on the wire. This step is not necessary, but it's something fun to add to your flower making skills. Like that, so it's not looking as flat as before. The next step is to attach our stamens to the wire. I'm going to use wafer paper glue, which are scraps of wafer paper melted in water, and I'm going to apply my wafer paper glue onto my stamens, only on the part where we haven't cut it through, like this. Now I'm going to take my wire, place it onto my stamens, fold it over, and I will start assembling everything together. So you can see I'm pinching my stamens and I'm bringing them onto the center. So we have a little bit more dimension when making our stamens. And I'm going to take everything and pinch at the base very firmly to open it up a little bit and create this beautiful textural shape. Now we have the base for our stamens. We need to add our pollen. And for my pollen mixture, I use semolina flour or coarse rice flour and a touch of yellow petal dust. And I mix everything together and I keep it in this container so I can use it every single time I need to make edible pollen on my flowers. I will take just a touch of my wafer paper glue on a brush and apply on the tips of my wafer paper stamens very carefully. And then I'm going to dip my stamens into my pollen mixture, creating very realistic textural rose center for our flower. Like this. Now we have our stamens on our wire. I will set it aside to dry and assemble with our petals all together. Now my petals are dry. I have my center ready. Let's assemble everything together. I'm going to use my wafer paper glue, same we used to make our center, because that's the best way to attach wafer paper to wafer paper. But before doing that, I'm going to dust my wafer paper petals to give them a little bit more dimension. I'm using dry petal dust in the color yellow, and I'm going to dust both my small petals and my large petals. So for the small petals, I'm going to take my dry petal dust on a brush and I will apply it heavily at the base of my petal, like this. For my small petals, and for my large petals, I'm going to apply the same yellow petal dust, but here at the top. This way we will have visual differentiation between small petals and large petals, and our rose will look more realistic. I will bring 5 of my small petals here first. And I will take my wafer paper glue and apply at the base in a V shape at every single petal. Wafer paper glue needs just a few seconds to soften our wafer paper so we can start attaching our petals to the base. My stamen or my base is ready and fully dry, and I will start placing my petals one by one, overlapping the second one on top of the first one, third, and that's it. Fourth, and feeding my fifth in between my first one and my fourth one, like this. Now I can bring everything together and pinch at the base. I don't want it to have the spiral effect, but I wanted to have a dimension and differentiation between layers. So I'm going to add a touch more wafer paper glue here and there and move my petals and position my petals the way I want my rose to look like. And I will do the same for my large petals. I will take my wafer paper glue and apply in a V shape at the base. Take my flower and place my petals in a way that they are going to continue the spiral we started with the previous layer, like that. So the next one is going to be inside this one, and the last one overlapping my first one. Sometimes it's easier to assemble from the back, sometimes it's easier to assemble from the top. Play around and see what you like for the position of your petals and for your rose flower. And when working with wafer paper, especially if you're using my wafer paper conditioner, don't be scared to play with your petals and shape them in your hands. Add wafer paper glue if needed to move some petals or attach them together like that. maybe a little bit of wafer paper glue in here in the middle to hold it all together. So you can see when you are playing with your flower, with your petal, and allowing it to unfold in all these beautiful dimensional shapes, it's going to look way more realistic than just flat wafer paper. So you can see we have all these layers with using just a few petals for our wafer paper wild rose. To make my calyx for my rose, I'm going to take pre-cut pieces from my template, and I need to have 5 calyx pieces, and I'm going to color and shape my calyx all together. So I'm going to use a touch of gel color. This is olive green, and I'm going to mix it with my wafer paper conditioner to give me color and texture, so I can color and texture my wafer paper calyx at the same time. So I want my calyx to be colored on the shiny side. I will place it shiny side up and apply my wafer paper conditioner on the shiny side as evenly as possible. I will set it aside for a second while I'm applying my color to all 5 pieces. So now I need to shape my calyx. I will take a pair of scissors and cut a few indentations on the top of my calyx like this. Put it back, use a ball tool, put it upside down with the cut parts towards me. Take a thick end of my Dresden tool, press it and pull it towards me on all these little indentations we created. And this is going to be our calyx for our roses. And now we have our calyx pieces to assemble our rose together. And the last step is to add our calyx. I will take all my small pieces, apply a touch of wafer paper on the white side of the calyx, and place it at the base of my rose flower here. And same as we did with our petals, just pinching everything together, moving and bending our calyx pieces to give it more realistic look. And now you have it. Now you know how to make very beautiful textural wafer paper roses. Don't forget to download my template in the description and make your beautiful delicate wafer paper roses.